Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Reality Whisperer Webcast. I'm Brad Johnson. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Looking forward to having a really amazing show tonight, as we're going to be talking more about the aura, the energy body, and healing technology. So we get a lot of good, juicy information to be shared here in tonight's webcast. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and of course, there is the Q&A app that is available. All you have to do is just, if you're on the event page or if you're on YouTube, you'll see a little icon that says Q&A. Just go ahead, and I think you have to be on the event page rather. But just go ahead and click on that, and you can post your questions for myself or for Adronis later on in the broadcast. So we'll be spending about a good 60 to 90 minutes here this evening on the Reality Whisperer Webcast, talking about these exciting topics. So while we get into it, we're going to firstly just kind of give a thanks and appreciation to people who are, our partners here, our affiliates that are helping with supporting the Reality Whisperer Webcast. And the first one, of course, is portaltoascension.org, live events with the world's top conscious experts. So again, a lot of exciting events coming forward with Portal to Ascension. I'm going to be doing some work with them here in the next couple of months as well too. One of them involves a channeling development workshop, also alongside Rob Gauthier, and we're going to be working with Portal to Ascension. I also have a couple other events that will be coming up probably around the time of June. So again, feel free to check out portaltoascension.org. A lot of exciting speakers: Michael Tallinger, William Henry, Stephen Greer, James Gilliland has even done some work with them, as well as Laura Eisenhower, and a lot more. So some very exciting names through portaltoascension.org. And our second affiliate tonight is the wishingmachineproject.com. So I'm good friends with the builder of the Radionics device. What we're going to be talking about tonight is known as the wishing machine. And basically this is a Radionics device. And so wishingmachineproject.com, it's the official website of the Radionics wishing machine. So basically how this works is, again, intention-based psionics, radionics, that's kind of like getting you into a 24/7 Zen state relating to your particular intention/manifestation. So we're going to be looking into that a little bit later tonight with the topics that we're going to be discussing. But feel free to go to wishingmachineproject.com and check it out. There's some great videos there. And again, really great, affordable Radionics machine. I have my particular Radionics machine now for well over a year, and it's still working very strong, doing an amazing job. So if you're interested in that, feel free to check out the website. The individual's name is Dr. Mulder, and he builds these by hand, and they're just absolutely magnificent. So feel free to go to wishingmachineproject.com and check that out. So anyways, welcome everybody to the Reality Whisperer Webcast. I am the host, Brad Johnson, of course, and I'm looking forward to sharing some really great information with everybody tonight. Another particular announcement I have is relating to the Channel Nexus event. I actually don't have a ticker on the bottom here regarding it, but it's happening April 24th, and it's on the Sunday, starting at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And of course, it will feature myself, Susie Baylor, Rob Gauthier, and Roxanne Swainhart. And all four of us are going to be channeling, connecting to our particular contacts and sharing some really incredible information. So you can go to realitywhisperer.com. You'll see the poster there on the main page called Channel Nexus, and feel free to click on the poster and check it out. We have a really exciting full day planned with these other amazing channels, and we're going to have a lot of fun and a lot of spiritual education and insight coming forward through this particular event. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get things cracking with some current events, things that may be happening right now, and the things that we're going to be looking at tonight will mainly be in video form. So one of these particular videos I've discovered, I'm subscribed to one of these particular channels, and I was actually able to recently see one of these particular videos, and it was kind of a raised eyebrow and saying, huh, this is quite interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up that clip right now. There is no sound to it, but we'll check out the video. And this is just on Google Earth, and this is something that's happened in Egypt, or something that's been discovered, rather, within Egypt. And the camera is going to start zooming in here a little bit more closer. And we're seeing this very interesting object, or even perhaps an installation. So people have been talking about this a lot in forums. I've even seen quite a few of my friends on Facebook post this and find out, what is this thing? What is this? What is this particular structure? So there's been a lot of gossip relating to it. So I'm just going to kind of let the video run here so you guys can see some of the good details relating to this particular structure. As we can see, that part of it is buried in sand. And part of it's just kind of sticking out, and that we have a kind of interesting structure. The outlines here, these lines that are basically just kind of sticking out. So some people have hypothesized. Gotta love dyslexia. Some people have hypothesized that this may have been an underground installation or some installation that's coming out. My own particular feeling that when I saw this and saying, oh, a spacecraft is being uncovered, right? And so that's basically my feeling, my take on this. Maybe Adronis can come through later and he can talk a little bit about this. But of course, this is Egypt. Back in the time of Egypt, you know, the whole idea of extraterrestrial spacecraft, of interplanetary conveyances was quite common. So it would be of no surprise that buried within a lot of the sand is a lot of these spacecraft. Now, the interesting thing, of course, about Egypt is that Egypt wasn't always a desert. And for a lot of us who have done some really thorough, unique research relating to Egypt, is that Egypt was once a forest. It was very much like the Amazon in that way. And through a lot of what happened throughout all the times, but most specifically during the Atlantean disaster, is that we had an incredibly large wall of water and mud that basically just splashed itself right across the Egyptian plain and buried a lot of what was there under, who can say, thousands and thousands of tons of sand. And so it would be of no surprise that through certain forms of changes and shifts that are happening here on the planet now, that we're actually starting to see some of these things become uncovered. So they've actually been able to discover a lot of things in Egypt relating to ancient relics, other particular forms of spacecraft. You know, of course, the Giza Plateau is always under a lot of scrutiny about what's actually under there, what's under the pyramids, what's under the Sphinx. So there's a lot of mystery surrounding Egypt. But I thought this was very interesting to share with people and saying, it looks like there's a very ancient spacecraft here that's been buried, that's now starting to be revealed. So that was just one of my first impressions of it once I took a look at the video. So again, what do you guys think? It's up to you too as well, giving your own perspectives on this. There's a second video that I'm going to be playing here. This one wasn't as recent as the object in Egypt, but it was discovered and shared back in the end of March. So I'm going to go ahead and pull this one up as well. And this is in Antarctica. And as we zoom in, oh, there's a pyramid. So we're getting the impression that Antarctica may have once, in that sense, been a very, very fruitful land that had a great deal of indigenous population. It's not just this frozen icicle existing in the southern pole, but again, a very large and amazingly shaped pyramid here found in Antarctica. There's also been other discoveries as well, too, of stargates. And now it's saying here that there are 4 particular pyramids within Antarctica. But there are also stargates existing in Antarctica as well, too. And it's been very well specified that a lot of the Nazis after World War II migrated to Antarctica and was actually able to find certain forms of installations that have been built during ancient times, going all the way back into the ancient times of the Argothan network. So again, a lot of amazing stuff happening in Egypt and of course Antarctica as well too. So I was just very, very fascinated by this and say, oh, well, you know, I just discovered this about 20 minutes, half an hour before I came on the air tonight, and say, oh, okay, we're going to talk about this. This sounds very, very interesting. So there we go. We have some interesting stuff here to take a look at relating to the possible spacecraft or installation that is found in Egypt, and of course these pyramids that are found in Antarctica. But Antarctica, I feel, had a very ancient civilization as well too. That basically this land was, again, nice and dry, could even been very, very fertile land as well too, having a lot of particular forms of wildlife and vegetation, that it was not even close to the type of Antarctica that we see today. So again, another particular type of enormous continent that once existed thousands or hundreds of thousands of years ago, that perhaps just drifted and came into the southern polar region, and then of course just became this enormous sheet of ice. But again, there is land there, there are stargates there, there are pyramids there. So a lot of exciting things to look at pertaining to Antarctica and of course to Egypt. So that is basically the current events that I wanted to share with everybody tonight. So of course, our main theme this evening, we're going to be talking about the aura, the energy body, and healing technology. So we're going to firstly begin here with this slide. So this is just giving us the basic overview of what we could refer to as the chakra centers, or the auric field as well too. There's many different names that we can always refer to it as. We can refer to it as the energy body. We can refer to it as the aura. We can refer to it as different layers, such as the vital body, the astral body, the ethereal body, the akashic body, the mental body, etc. But basically, we are just this walking biomagnetic field. And basically, with the aura itself, once we start to get a really deep understanding of the sensitivity that the aura can communicate with us, this is really helping us to get more into a state of not only just a great state of physical health, but also looking more into our own spiritual health as well too. Is that if we can really become very sensitive pertaining to our own vital body, to our own etheric body, to our transient bodies, to actually being able to be intimately connected with our own astral body while we go to sleep, and actually being able to travel to different dimensions, to different realities, then we're going to be experiencing an entire new body about ourselves. And I've often referred to this as the reality body, that we're looking into an energy field that can be communicative with us. But again, like everything else that's been talked about, it's all about being able to form a state of relationship. So if we're looking into what the aura is basically attempting to tell us, it's more than just a gauge or a particular type of meter. We could also refer to that in the chakras as well too, that the chakras themselves represent a particular type of gauge. Now, the chakras themselves don't even exist within the same physicalized dimension that we do. They are in no way physical. So it's basically being able to look at the emphasis and essence of these beautiful, amazing vortexes of energy, and that you could simply refer to them as types of singularity that represent an etheric, astral, light-based infrastructure that is actually helping to, in different dimensional constants, energize and architect our bodies appropriately, architect our realities, basically being the interfacers relating to how we are able to perceive physical reality. And so there are a lot of people that saying, make sure you keep your chakra centers nice and clear. Start working with them. If you're noticing that there's certain forms of emotional debris, then this can correlate back into your chakra centers. You want to also be very mindful in regards to your aura as well too, that the way you breathe also gives you an idea about the expansion nature of your own aura. So that as we contract, as we expand our lungs, we're actually getting an idea in that sense of our own healthy aura. So basically giving you the idea of your own personality archetype. If there's a person who's just unbelievably shy and timid and really doesn't want to open up, we can basically see that this aura is very, very contained. If there's a person who's very active, very sociable, a social butterfly, and we can see that that aura again is very welcoming, very open. And of course, it can also relate to emotional states as well too. A person who's very angry, just wants to manipulate people, very, very greedy. We're seeing a lot of different holes in the aura. We're seeing more muddy colors in the aura as well too. Whereas a person who's very loving, enriching, prolific, wants to really being able to help themselves and help mankind and wanting to, go on these particular love missions, so to speak, we'll see a very enriching or a very bright, very expansive as well too. So the aura just reciprocates everything that we are feeling. It's kind of like looking into the sun as well too, and we're going to be taking a look into another particular technology that looks into the aura a little bit more deeply. But it's kind of like looking at the sun when we're looking into our own auric field. If we were actually able to put on a special type of glasses that would actually allow us to see our aura, it would appear very much like the plasmic flow within our own sun, looking into the idea of all of these coronal mass ejections, or just the fluidic nature of how the plasma within the sun reacts. And that's basically the exact same thing within our aura. We'd actually be able to see this plasmatic flow flowing through our bodies, through what the aura represents. So working together with the aura, what is it that we can do to help get an understanding of how we can form a relationship with the aura? Well, it really just comes down to something very simple, and that's going to be the next thing, is looking more into the idea of thought forms. So this is something that I've taught just recently within the Akashic Records home study course that I have available on realitywhisperer.com. Some bonus content that came into that course was, again, working with thought forms as it pertains to the Akashic Records. And the Akashic Records we're going to be talking about another time down the road as a future episode. But the thought forms, again, is a very interesting aspect of a technique that we can use to get an understanding about how we can connect and form relationships with the aura. So we have to understand in that sense about what the aura means to us. We all have auras, we all have this energy body, we all have the chakra centers. Some people may have different types of alignments of chakra centers than others, which is something amazing that I've discovered. I guess I'll talk about that briefly before I go into the thought forms. Basically, I've had a couple of clients, not many. I'd say out of the thousands of clients that I've talked to, I'd say only about 1% have this. But there are actually some people who either have chakra centers that are either cloaked or even in that sense non-existent. But very, very rare, because I usually just say, oh, we all have chakra centers. But just being able to look at this very rarely, some people don't. There are also others who have different color patterns as it relates to their chakra centers as well too. What does this mean? What is it when a person, maybe instead of having a red root chakra, maybe they have like a type of tangerine color down there, or some of the different orientations of chakra centers. Well, the best thing that could be explained from how Dronas put it was that these are beings from different universes, or different beings from different constructs. Every particular planetary system has its own construct or grid as it relates to chakra centers. That's all part of the emphasis in regards to how the game is properly configured when it comes to the state of incarnation. But there can be beings from other universes that are not directly associated with the planetary grid or even with our own star system grid that actually come here on the planet as projections. And so basically what that means is that there are beings that have projected a spark of their own soul from another aspect of their consciousness that is existing elsewhere. Could be within another universe, could be within another galaxy, an entirely different dimension or density. But what they've done is they've actually built a manifested body. This is what you would know as a created body. And created bodies can actually come onto the planet and start interacting in this state of human form. This is also what walk-ins can do as well too at times. But it's very possible that these beings that, again, just contribute a projection of their own soul, I wouldn't say matter, but looking into their own soul essence and being able to translate that and bring that into the earth plane and actually operating on different frequencies as it pertains to their own chakra centers. So I have had people talk to me and say, oh, Brad, well, there was this one psychic that told me that I don't have any chakra centers. Or there was this one psychic that told me that my chakra centers are of a different calibration. They're actually all white and silver, so what's going on here? And as I brought Adronis in, and he says, yes, this is because, you are a projection of consciousness. It's not to say that you are soulless. You certainly have soul, but you are basically a remote link, a remote state of consciousness that's actually coming here upon this planet to perform a certain task, which means that you're in and out. Now, the interesting thing about this as well, too, which leads to another topic that Adronis is going to be talking about in a future video on my channel, is what's known as karmic immunity. There is such a thing as karmic immunity. Basically, what this means is that there are certain people that are calibrated that are immune to actually holding on a permanence as it relates to karma. So basically what that means is that some people that come here are basically assigned a mission, and that they're here to help uplift the consciousness. They're here to perform simple acts of kindness. They're here to perhaps share a lot of their healing understandings and knowledge with people. They may live simple lives. They may just work at a coffee shop, and then they're doing a lot of this other work as well too. And basically, these particular people just operate on a very, very simple life path. They don't get too stirred up in regards to the mix as it relates to what other people are going through in regards to social behavior, social activity, government, politics, etc. They basically are able to energetically wipe all of that off, right? So there are certain people that are just here for a certain amount of time. They can live a full life. They can live, from a baby all the way up to 70, 80, 90 years old, and they know exactly when they go back home. And when they go back home, they have no attachment, no cords stay with them relating to the idea of this karmic energy. So it's basically rubbed off them. So basically, they will work with specific guides that are very connected to them, to giving them information about how to remove certain forms of karmic blocks. Because again, there will always be the idea of the process of starting up karmic relationships or karmic forms, but they actually go into these states sometimes just in the dream time, and are able to just shrug and brush off a lot of that karma, and are not affected when they're looking into the end of their life. They're just thankful for everything. There's no animosity. There's no attachment here. Everything is basically karmic immune to these particular type of people. These people can just have one single life here on planet Earth. They're just here to perform a task. They're getting all of these constant downloads. They're just ultra sensitive. And their energy body, their aura, is all in corroboration to another particular type of projection of consciousness that exists within another dimension, within another reality. So that's kind of an interesting thing, and this is what I was discovering through Radionics. But I've also been able to discover this through Dolores Cannon's work as well, too, the late Dolores Cannon. And what I really loved about her was that she had so much corroborative stuff, like everything Adronis was talking about. Then I just noticed, out of the grapevine, she'd talk about this. She'll talk about background people. She'll talk about karmic immunity. She'll talk about the waves of people, coming onto the planet. She'll talk about all of these different forms of regressions taking place in past lives, and just being able to share a lot of this information that, again, I may just notice Adronis shares it a day or two before. Then all of a sudden I look at a video of hers, or I listen to her on the radio, and she talks about it. I'm like, whoa, this is some great, amazing synchronicity here happening. But again, it's just showing how an amazing world, an amazing galaxy, an amazing universe, an amazing aspect of creation that we all are. That you may meet people who do not have chakras, or you may meet people who have chakra centers in different forms of color calibrations as well, too. So to me, it's quite rare. Like I said, out of the thousands of people I've talked to, maybe I've had about 2 or 3, maybe 4 tops relating to that. And I've had to call into Adronis, and I'm saying, well, what's going on here? This person doesn't have any chakra centers, or their chakra centers are different color vibrations. And so he'll come through. And the ones that have different chakra centers, or that have no chakra centers, basically what it represents, it's saying that they don't always have to relate to holograms. Holograms can represent that, different forms of projections, but a lot of it in that sense is not even compatible for viewing because of their orientation of being. These also may be created bodies as well, too. And it's very possible that these created bodies, again, that were infused with soul essence, are just very unaware that they're actually created in that nature as well, too. So this can happen. People who are dowsers and saying, dude, where's your root chakra? Where's your sacral? Where's your heart chakra? Where's your solar plexus? What's going on here, right? And they're not even able to detect it, right? So that could be the idea that this could be a creative being. This could be a being that just doesn't have the capability of sharing, the orientation of their chakra centers within our spectrum. It's hard to say, right? There's many different cases out there. But this is just something I wanted to share because I always found it very fascinating. And so again, I'll be doing a video with Adronis on this, hopefully this week or next. But I think it's a really interesting topic to discuss a lot further. So anyways, we're going to get back into the thought forms. So looking into the idea of thought form energy. What is a thought form? If people were wondering, oh, Brad, when you're talking about thought form, what are you talking about? Well, you basically dissect the word, a form that is created by thought. Now, it's not just the idea that it's something just bland that you just make out of the top of your head. Basically, you're creating a form of thought that represents an important frequency relationship to yourself. So let's say, for example, that you wanted to attract money within your life. You wanted to have financial abundance. Basically, what you're doing in a meditative state, a state of focus, is just attempting to create a relationship pertaining to a symbolism, a form of thought that you create that relates to the principle of that particular state of financial abundance. So again, if you see that you're holding out your hands in the air, and all of a sudden you're seeing all these dollar bills falling all over you, that can represent a very appropriate thought form, because that is your own interpretation of how you are attracting financial abundance. You may just be able to see yourself in a state of hyperspace, and now you're just seeing all of this light pass through you, and all this light is now starting to fill dollar bills, in your hand. That again represents another particular thought form. Some people may just see a dollar sign, right, and being able to attract that, seeing it very, very gold and starting to get bigger and bigger, larger and larger. That again is an appropriate thought form. So what you're basically doing is you're forming relationships through thought that creates a form that serves you. So that's basically the thought form technique. Now, this is something that we can use in regards to how we communicate with our aura, to how we communicate with our chakras. Can people actually talk to their chakras just as if others were to talk to each other when they bump into each other on the street? Absolutely. You can absolutely talk to your chakra centers. But again, you want to develop a relationship. You want to see exactly how it translates in regards to a state of communication. So what does it mean for you to communicate with your root chakra in that sense? What type of feelings do you get in that way? If I'm concentrating on my root chakra right now, I'm just feeling like almost kind of like a stirring, like a vibration in that particular way. And if I was to stay with that long enough, maybe I'll notice a jolt or something like that. If I get like a lower back, kink or something like that, all of a sudden I'll feel a jolt in the vibration, right? Then I can go a little bit deeper, and because maybe I don't quite understand what the vibration is attempting to tell me, I'll form some type of relationship, right? So basically what I'll do is I may create a singularity, all right? I'll create a red ray singularity to connect with the root chakra, and being able to transmit codes. Okay, this can be referred to as light circuitry, which we'll be getting into later as well too. And actually being able to transmit codes into this red-colored singularity, and actually being able to receive codes back from the root chakra. So this is going back to what Adronis was talking about in the group video that I did recently with Alina and a couple of others that were there. And basically the question was that this woman created a portrait, a painting of a particular portal or singularity, and that utilizing certain forms of codes that you put into the singularity can actually allow translation to come through, because what you're doing is you're creating a proxy, right? So it's kind of like a telephone. You're picking up the telephone and you're dialing your root chakra and saying, hey, root chakra, what's going on here? I'm feeling this reverberation effect, this huge jolt, this spike within the vibration. Is everything okay, right? And now you want to try and find some type of reciprocal translation in relationship to what you're discussing as it pertains to the root chakra altogether. And so the root chakra may start sending you these codes. It may start talking to you in dream state. If you're very good at light circuitry and you're able, or sacred circuitry or sacred symbolism, and you're able to receive these codes and you're able to decipher them, that's something that you can use. You can also utilize something as simple as kinesiology, muscle testing, right? Being able to get yes or no responses. You can also use something like a pendulum. You can also use tarot cards, right? So there's many different ways to interpret the information that's coming through. But all you're attempting to do firstly is attempting to create a thought form-based relationship between you and your own aura. So whether that's the chakra centers, whether that's the vital body, whether it's even looking into the nadi tubes that exist throughout our entire body, we can talk to all of it. We can talk to everything in hyperspace and astral realms and ethereal planes. All of that is possible if we have the ability to look into generating relationship through one thought form to another, right? So the thought forms are proxies. They're telephones. We're picking up the dial, we're picking up the receiver, we're dialing the number representing the codes, the essence that's contained inside the thought form, and now we're able to receive that information from the root chakra, for example, following through the proxy and connecting to us, right? So we can actually allow ourselves to highly establish a very strong thought form connection as it pertains to our own aura. So again, our aura tells us everything about ourselves. It tells us, how long we're going to age for, how long we're going to be here on this planet. It tells us all about, the integrity of our bodies. It talks about our mental capacity, our memory ability, certain things we're still holding on to, challenges, opportunities for certain states of enhancement. You name it. It's infinite. And so it's all about being able to develop proxies, to create a thought form, to generate some type of relationship about what you want to talk about. Because if your energy body's talking to you all the time, but it's kind of like looking into a person that's just come up to you and speaking in gibberish, blah, 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 right? You don't understand what they're saying because there's no translator, there's no interpreter that's coming through. So what you're doing with the thought form is you're creating a proxy, you're creating an interpretation relating to how you are communicating with the energy body. So talking to your heart chakra. If your throat feels sore and you're not too sure what's going on, then you start creating a proxy, start creating something that represents a relationship to how you can connect to your throat chakra. Maybe that's a trumpet, maybe that's being able to speak through a megaphone. Maybe that's being able to sit on a beach chair and look at a beautiful blue ocean, right? Whatever you feel creates some type of relationship to communicate in kind with the chakra that is appropriate, or the aspect of your energy body that is appropriate. Whatever that is, let that be something that you feel you can create and manifest together. So that's just giving you an idea as it relates to a thought form. So what I have here is just a simple little crystal. And these are great as well too, right? So if you feel that, I have thought forms, but maybe I can't hold the image too much, maybe the image is too complex, or maybe I'm just not disciplined in that level to hold this thought form for a great deal of time. Well, this is where you're getting out your piece of paper, right? This is where you're creating symbols. This is maybe where you're going on to Google Images and you see an image that says, oh my God, yes, that is the type of thought form that I want to create to communicate with my body. That is the type of thought form that I want to create to communicate with this entity that I'm just starting to discover right now. And maybe it's an angel. And now I found an angel image on Google Images. I've downloaded it. Now what do I do? All right, well, what you can do is if you have a piece of paper, say for example of that angel on it, you put that piece of paper down, you take a crystal like this, you pop it on top of the image, and you just spend some time being able to imagine the relationship that you form between that angelic consciousness that just spoke to you and this proxy energy, this image that you have chosen to function as this proxy, to function as this telephone, right? So you're just spending time with that energy, and you're just filling that energy with all of the intention of relationship to communicate with this angel. Go back into those moments. What did you feel? Oh, it was at 3 o'clock in the morning. I was just starting to wake up a little bit, and I felt this white light energy in my room. And all of a sudden it was just sharing all this beautiful information with me telepathically. And it was just so full of love. All right, so you want to go back into that moment. You want to just imagine you can freeze frame that moment, take a picture of it, and make that relationship with this proxy image, right? This is a thought form. This is what you're creating all together. You're utilizing that crystal as a storage device. So it's kind of like if you have a USB, right? You're taking a USB, you're plugging it into that image, and now that image is downloading all of the particular type of relationship energy that you are assigning to that proxy, right? And just leave it overnight. Give it a good few minutes, however long you want to take to really just emphasize that energy. The crystal is now charged the next morning. Now you can start utilizing this in meditation. Maybe you can start wearing it as a necklace. Maybe you can start again meditating and just putting the crystal upon your third eye chakra. Right? Now you can have your diary out. You can start writing information down as you are connected with the crystal. You can start communicating with the crystal because you have created the proxy thought form connecting to the intention of this angelic energy. Now, if this angelic energy wishes to respond to you, because it is a two-way street, then that energy can now respond and connect and give you some information through the proxy of that crystal. So that's how cool these things can be, right? It's just there's a million and one things to do as it relates to working with thought forms and creating proxies and being able to develop some type of meaningful relationship. That's it. When I connect with Adronis, I have a relationship with his energy. When I'm connecting to Rayar, I have a relationship with her energy. I've been able to capture that moment in time that basically gives me the interpretation of their energy. So I'm looking into their energy fields. I'm looking into their aura. I'm sharing my brainwave states with their brainwave states, and it interlocks, and we form a relationship, and that is how we can communicate. How that comes through depends upon the person. Not everybody is going to visualize this particular being or an aspect of your chakra center talking to you. What I have discovered through my own channeling, and it's kind of an association to this, what I've discovered through my own channeling is that Adronis communicates with me through very subtle energies, right? It's not intense. It was at first when I was first starting out, but when I'm communicating with him right now, it's very subtle. It's almost like you have dewdrops, from heaven, so to speak, that are just very, very gently landing on the top of your crown chakra. And that's very much his type of energy. If I was going into very deep trance states that would be very unconscious, that energy would therefore become very intensified. Because basically when you have the filter of going into an alpha or a theta wave state pertaining to channeling where you're still conscious, quite conscious, then those energies are going to be quite subtle. They may have a little bit of intensity behind them, but they're going to be very soft. When you start going into the deeper levels, when you have less of a conscious awareness about what's going on, those energies will intensify because, again, there's less of your own conscious, and so there needs to be a reciprocation of a balancing of the scale relating to the amount of energies that actually come through you to channel and to communicate. Right, so that all depends in regards to the channel. There are conscious channels, there are semi-trance channels, there are deep trance channels, there are completely unconscious channels. Channels in that sense, they're actually able to leave their body and actually have the essence of another entity actually coming through and being able to interpret themselves through the physical body. This is known as ensoulment, right? So there's a lot of different ways, but my own particular way is between the alpha and theta wave states, is I connect in a very subtle energetic state component with Adronis's energy. So again, that's just giving another little overview of being able to look into your aura, looking into your energy, and knowing when this subtle energy is coming through and being able to communicate with that. Okay, so I wanted to share that with everybody. We're going to move on now, and we're going to take a look into light circuitry, okay? So this was something that I discovered back in about 2011. And of course, it just represents light language and sacred circuitry. And so I take the light, I take the circuitry, and I call it light circuitry. Life is code, right? So a little sample of me drawing these particular light circuits. Now, there's a bit of a treat for everybody. I have developed two particular light circuits I'm going to show here in just a moment for everybody. And if you guys want to get a better image of these two light circuits, then basically what you can do is in the archived recording of tonight's broadcast, just go into the video description and you'll see two links from Google Drive that you can download these two particular circuits. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold up each of these circuits for about a good 15 to 30 seconds so you guys can get an idea of it. So the two types of circuits that I have here, one is called the hemispheric balancing circuit, and the second is called the mental clarity circuit. Now, this has been specifically calibrated for everybody that's going to tune into the show tonight. So, how it works is entirely up to you, but I'm going to provide instructions about how a person can utilize this. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the first one here. This is the hemispheric balancing circuit. So I'll just hold this up to see if you guys can see it all right. So kind of complex. There's quite a bit of detail in regards to this circuit. Now, the hemispheric balancing circuit is basically working together with the brain hemispheres. It also represents together an energetic hemispheric recalibration as well too. And that this particular diagram is giving a subconscious information to help to rebalance those energies. Okay, so again, as stated, you'll be able to find these in the video description in the archived recording. And the second one is a little bit more different. This one actually has more like writing in it. So I'll show you this one. This is the mental clarity circuit. Okay. So it looks like there's alien writing in this, right? Well, this can be universal codes, right? Because this is actually a very common syntax that I use in many different types of light circuitry. A lot of different races can utilize symbols like this. This can be usually found within Sirius and Orion. That these type of codes can be found also in Arcturus as well. But that's kind of my dialect that I use, Sirius, Orion, and Octurian, right? So again, those two circuits can be found in the video description, and you guys can feel free to download them. And how to use them is just being able to print them out. Make sure you have a printer if you do. If not, run to a library or a computer store or something like that, and feel free to print them out. And what you're going to do is just being able to firstly perform a short meditation with them. Just sit peacefully with them for about a good 5 minutes at least, and just get a feeling of the particular energy. And you will know within that 5 minutes if these particular circuits are calibrated for you. If they're not, that's okay. You can always come to me because I do light circuitry sessions. But if you feel that there's a good connection there, that's great. Your next step would be able to just take these circuits and put them under your bed for a total of 7 nights. And after 7 nights, this would represent a full calibration of yourself. A second option you can do is you can just take these circuits and place them like on a windowsill. If you want to put a crystal under them, you can do that as well too. If you want to put a candle over top as well too, that's fine. Just make sure the candle is not being left on all night so you're not getting a fire. But this, again, can represent certain forms of amplifications. If you're putting crystals, if you're putting pyramids, if you're putting candles on them, this will help to amplify the energy, and it just goes to work while you sleep. So I usually say just keep them by the bed because it can really work very good with the conscious awareness that you're creating this particular type of ritual, putting it under your bed, knowing that it's there, and feeling very comfortable with that energy as you drift off to sleep. But again, if you feel you want to put them on a windowsill or on a table, and want to use some type of amplifier, you can do that as well too. So again, these will be made available. So that is, again, just giving a sample of light circuitry. And this one, again, was done a little bit better of a marker. The other marker I used for the first one was starting to run dry. But again, some people may ask, well, Brad, how exactly do you do these light circuits? How is it done? Well, depending upon the light circuit, sometimes I just get the image within my mind. I just intuitively know what to draw, what happens, what will take place, and I just start to create this particular circuit. With these ones, though, I basically use light language in complement with sacred circuitry, right? So again, that's why I call it light circuitry. So if I was to basically create the mental clarity circuit, it's basically just language like Kirenoso, Miyereno, Nakorona Sidi, Karetorosono, Manakraxireno, Nintosi. Right? So it's almost sounding like baby gibberish in that way. But these are actually imprints that are coming through while you're creating the circuit. And being able to create this light circuit once completed, you'll notice the generated effect that comes through that sound frequency. There are some people in that sense that use language of light transmissions, and they are very powerful. You just connect with that energy, and you feel this amazing reverberation of harmonious energy just flowing through you. When a person just even does like really beautiful song with light circuitry, or with light language, I should say, it's amazing. It's uplifting. So there's a lot to that. This is the power of sound and the power of all these codes that are coming through these different types of languages that we really can't understand. Some people have even said, well, Brad, I heard you talk about, or actually sing, or I wouldn't say sing, but being able to chant these particular languages of light. What do they mean? What's the English translation to that? And usually the answer is there is no English translation to it. It's kind of like seeing if there is a translation to music, right? A lot of these particular types of codes come through almost like a musical type form. And you really don't know the exact translation about what's going through on a syntax level, on a level in regards to what's communicated verbally, other than the idea of utilizing song. But a lot of them are done to work with DNA. A lot of it is done to actually declutter karma. A lot of it is also done to enhance abilities within yourself, to actually help to grow your own psychic ability. A lot of it can be rearranging your energy field. A lot of it, again, can be personal detoxification, physically, mentally, emotionally, right? There's a lot of different capabilities that exist through language of light and through sacred circuitry. So light circuitry is all part of being able to detoxify and to enhance. And there's a lot of people who have had some really amazing benefits through the light circuitry as well too. People who have had like problems with lupus, or problems with curved spine, problems with eczema, problems with diabetes, quite a lot of things that have come through. People with financial abundance, or wanting to attract a relationship, wanting to be able to go on a trip. All of this can correlate together with light circuitry. And it's all specifically calibrated specifically for you. So these particular circuits that I've created are aligned specifically for everybody here that's tuning into this broadcast. But when I'm doing a light circuit session for somebody, it's specifically calibrated to their energy. And so that only that they themselves can use it. So this is what makes it much more genuine for themselves, is it's their own personal circuit, and it's working to help them personally with detoxification and enhancement issues. So that is basically the light circuitry. Now, there's been a new discovery within the light circuitry as well, too. Again, as we're going more into the healing field right now. And this is just a template that I've recently created that is part of what's known as radionic light circuitry. So we are going to be talking about radionics here in a little bit. But this is a template that was created. And this one has a very, very interesting flow to it. So I'm just going to kind of go over the template here very briefly. The top left-hand corner there represents the input. The top right-hand corner there represents the output. The center circle here represents the amplifier. That's basically where a crystal or a pyramid or a candle would go to actually allow amplification of this light circuit to take place. There are etheric tuners on the left and right-hand side of this template. Basically, what this entails is that utilizing a form of kinesiology, which represents our plastic rub plate, I'm actually tuning into the etheric energies of the circuit to fine-tune it to a calibration of its purest source. So that, for example, if this was a circuit relating to financial abundance for Joe Smith, for example, then basically what I would do is I have his own photograph or his own signature, and I'm utilizing that as the output. His input would represent the idea of attracting financial abundance. So that would therefore go into the input rectangle there. Through that input rectangle, you could also put a particular type of symbolism. So again, what I would refer to as a thought form trigger. So if I was going back to the example of having a dollar sign that was colored in gold, for example, if that was something that he specifically wanted to use, then that would be something that we could use within the input rectangle there, the input plate. But going back into the etheric tuners here, there are 6 of them. And so what I do is I just start to envision Joe's intention for financial abundance. So I'm basically just stating in my mind, Joe is looking to have increased financial abundance. And what I do is I utilize a pen, and I just put the pen in the center of that little dot that you see there in the tuner. And I'm just basically tuning it like a dial. I would then use a rub plate, or I could also use a pendulum, to giving a confirmation of a kinesthetic response that's telling me there is an area that this particular manifestation can happen through a particular measurement contained in this scale. So if you were to look at the first quarter per portion of that etheric tuner, there would be a little mark there, and that would basically identify itself as a needle. So basically, if you were to say that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so on the left side starts at 1, on the right side starts at 10, on the top starts at 5, this meter would basically be at the 2.5 region, and there would just be a little mark from a pen there that would basically interpret this as an etheric confirmation kinesthetically relating to this particular type of intention. And I would just repeat that with the remaining 5 etheric tuners, right? So this is basically bringing in ethereal radionics into light circuitry. So what it's doing, it's combining the best of both worlds between radionics and light circuitry coming together. Light circuitry is the imprint, it is the command, it is the code that is allowing Joe Smith to receive an increased state of financial abundance. Now, I just utilized this particular method recently with myself, just in regards to quite a few different forms of attractions I was looking to obtain. Powerful, like almost instantly feeling it, boom, like that. So again, if I'm looking at this, with the idea of the mental clarity circuit, these are great. These are absolutely powerful as well too. But when I'm looking at the radionics integration into the light circuitry, it's even more almost immediate. And it's just being able to tune those dials, those etheric tuners. And as soon as you get that and you start amplifying this and it's ready to go, and you just put it somewhere in your house and you let it work, it's very, very powerful. So there's been some really great benefits with that. And again, it's just it's basically on anything that a person wants to look at, within something that they feel is within their reach. It's not saying that, hey, Brad, I want to be Superman. I want to be able to, if a person points a gun at me, I can just poof, bounce them off my chest. I'm not going to be able to do that for you, right? It's being able to work together with something that you feel is within your reach, right? So if we basically have our own conscious field, we know the certain forms of capabilities that we have. So we're not going to grow wings. We're not going to rise up out of the ground and fly, and all that, as much as we'd love to. It's not something that light circuitry is attempting to do, or radionics in that way as well too. But again, I'm going to be talking about radionics here very, very shortly, as we're going to get into that momentarily. But what we're going to look into now is another particular type of technology. And this is called a gas discharge visualization camera. This can also be referred to as bioelectric photography. This is what I was talking about in the earlier points of the show, that if you were to actually look at your own aura in that way, it would be very much like the plasmic flow of our own sun. Well, that's basically what is the visualization that takes place here with this particular bioelectric field camera. And this was invented by a Russian physicist known as Dr. Konstantin Korotkov. And I actually talked about this way back in 2009 through another series I was doing called Approaching Critical Mass, and talking about this gas discharge visualization camera and working with electrophotonic emissions. So again, a very interesting type of technology. And basically one of the experiments I remember they said they did was actually taking deionized water and being able to have a meditation expert come in and being able to see that water as themselves and blessing it significantly. And when they did that, they were able to measure the electrophotonic rate of it, and it was just off the scale. What they would also do too is they would take the deionized water into a water bottle, and they would place it in the center where there were 9 other water bottles as well too. Left it overnight, and all of those water bottles received the electrophotonic emissions as well too, representing that reflective water consciousness, that mirror, so to speak. So they were just doing some very interesting experiments. A lot of us pretty much already know this. This is child's play, but it's interesting to see it on a scientific level coming through and looking into these particular types of cameras that chart this. So again, very great information from these Russian physicists. They really share a lot of great insight pertaining to the confirmation of the aura and looking into the capabilities that we have once we understand our aura and connecting with it and understanding that we can actually treat certain forms of illnesses, diseases, once we get an understanding of the aura a little bit more, which again, apparently Dr. Korotkov has done. So the following here I'm going to show is another video that Russian television, RT, did an interview with based on Dr. Korotkov's discovery with this bioelectric photography. So I'm going to go ahead and play this now.
We hear these days about the power of positive thinking. Usually this focuses on what it can do for the individual. But now a Russian scientist says it can also benefit the world around us. RT's Sarah Firth looks at the science behind the claims.
Can you directly influence the world around you with just the power of your mind? Although it might sound far-fetched, a leading Russian scientist believes we can do exactly that. And using a device that photographs human energy fields, he's attempting to prove it.
We are developing idea that our consciousness is an active part of our material world. And with our consciousness, we can directly influence our world.
To bridge our understanding of the unseen world of energy, scientific experiments are carried out using a technique called bioelectric photography. The assumption is that we're constantly emitting energy. Now, bioelectric photography works to capture this energy field that's seen as a light around the body, or what some people would call your aura. Discovered in the 1930s by Russian inventor Semyon Kirlian, he realized that stimulating a subject with a short electrical impulse, you get a burst of light of photons and electrons around the subject.
It looks like aura, but I don't like this word because it has some metaphysical meaning. I prefer the word energy field.
The device itself photographs each finger individually, with different fingers responsible for different parts of the body, and feeds the information into a computer to interpret. One supposed benefit of this technique is early diagnosis of serious illnesses like heart disease and cancer.
All right, so that was basically at the end of the clip there. So again, just some very basic, stuff. A lot of us that are in the spiritual, metaphysical field are kind of going like, well, duh, of course this is here, right? So it's just giving an overview that, science is starting to catch up in certain ways relating to something that we already know is there, that, we've looked into the ancient yogis of thousands and thousands of years past, always talking about the energy field, always talking about the aura, always looking into the power of the mind and the power of thoughts, etc. So again, nothing too new relating to us in the spiritual and metaphysical community. But again, it's good to see this. So again, this is a very, very interesting type of technology. And as we saw in the video clip, we were seeing that they were able to do imprints of the aura itself, and then basically being able to chart it as octaves in regards to certain spikes within the auric field that were actually giving information about particular illnesses that somebody may have. One of the experiments that I was looking for back in 2009 was a person that feared he had like testicular cancer or something like that. And he didn't have it, but basically the fear was there. So, right, he was basically, he had his balls to the wall in that particular type of metaphorical means. But again, just a very, very fascinating technology. It's always interesting to kind of look into Russian physics and seeing that they are, again, taking a very strong step ahead of bringing consciousness into science as well, too. So again, just find it very, very interesting. So wanted to share that. All right, so we're going to move on now into the next part, which is, of course, radionics. So if you go to wishingmachineproject.com, and again, Dr. Mulder has created this particular type of invention, and it looks very simple. It's just like a wooden box. You got a copper plate here on the left. You got a plastic plate here on the right. You got an antenna on the top left-hand corner and a little adapter there that you plug into the wall. And of course, you have 9 dials. So again, this is again representing a similar type of impression that the template that I showed earlier represents, right? So the radionic light circuitry, again, is that hybridization between the energy of radionics and the energy of light circuitry. So it's taking best of both worlds together. But again, this amazing little box that I've had now for well over a year has just been incredible. There's been quite a few experiments that I've worked with. A lot of it just has to do with healing, with health, and with financial abundance as well too. And it has been exceptional. Done a really great job with that. And it's just amazing too, because you don't realize how smooth a lot of these intentions, these manifestations come through, because it's just so part of an amazing flow of everything that we're going through in a daily life. Oh, well, this attracted, I got this money here, or I'm feeling a lot better this morning than I was last night. I feel like I got more energy, right? So this is all part of an amazing technology that has been around for quite some time. In fact, the Atlanteans themselves utilized something that would refer to as radionics thousands and thousands of years ago. So being able to utilize this simple box, again, is very similar to what was shown in the template, is that you have an intention that you would put upon the copper plate. So that intention could be seen as a wish in that sense. Brad wishes to attract financial abundance, or Brad wishes to have daily energy every time he wakes up in the morning, right? Whatever it may be. And being able to put that little slip of paper in that top left-hand copper plate column, right? And what you're doing is you're using the rub plate as a kinesthetic response. So utilizing kinesiology. And what you're basically attempting to do is get a stick. So if you were basically trying to rub the plate of that plastic plate there, rub the plastic plate. And if I was to say that, see if I can demonstrate this as best I can. If I was to basically rub my hand like this is basically the standard response if you're rubbing a plastic plate. So basically, as you're tuning the dial with the other hand and just reminding yourself of the intention mentally and saying that I wish to have a greater amount of daily energy. Oh, now all of a sudden my thumb stops. So I get a stick. That's what's known as a stick sensation, right? That's the kinesthetic response. That's the same as if you were doing muscle testing like this and trying to bring your hand down and getting a strong response, right? So it's very similar to that on a kinesiological level. Big words today, I know. But being able to actually receive a stick is what we're attempting to go for while we're envisioning our intention of manifestation. And so when that happens, the dial itself is fully tuned. So it may be in the level of a number 3, for example. 1/3 of the dial has been turned after I got that stick, or as soon as I got that stick, rather. And so I'm just doing the exact same thing for the other 8 dials, right? So being able to turn the dial, envisioning the manifestation within my mind, utilizing the plastic plate. Oh, I got a stick, right? And now it's at 4 on the dial, right? And so I'm just doing that with all of the dials together. Once that's done, then you just take your output paper, which represents your signature or an image of yourself or a hair sample, for example, and you're just placing it on the plastic plate, right? After that's all done, you're just putting that away. You're putting the box away. You're putting it in a corner, putting it on a chair, on a table, whatever. And then you're plugging in the amplifier. And then you just let it go to work. Now, basically, what does this do? This is basically like having a 24/7 Zen state all the time pertaining to this manifestation. And, I've got people say, well, you know what, Brad, I can do this all myself. Go for it. No one's going to stop you for that. But if you're really looking for a manifestation that's working all the time, 24/7, never has any hiccups, Radionics is great for that. Being able to actually have this intense amplification equivalent to a Zen master in a Zen state and bringing about this manifestation, you're only getting a win-win. This is not harming you by any means. This is amplifying. This is assisting you. This is a very useful tool. So it's complementing you in regards to certain forms of manifestations, because you may feel that there may be some other types of manifestations that you may want to look at in meditation. Maybe you want to look more into attaining a higher state of mindfulness, or being able to attract a job or a career that you would like, and you have another particular type of manifestation there that's going to work 24/7. It is your energy, right? This is not anyone else's energy. When you're putting all of this intention, all of this focus into this box, it's yours. This is not coming out from anybody else. This isn't the creator of the box's energy or anything like that. This is your own energy that is reflecting in a state of consciousness. So like we saw with the gas discharge visualization camera, being able to look into the measurement of different forms of responses of how focus is actually starting to influence our own auric field, or rather than influence, looking into the idea of the reflection, what we're reflecting through our own energetic field that's giving us a state of this particular intention. So again, you're doing everything with that box. You're leaving your imprint, you're projecting your focused consciousness upon this box, attuning the vibration like a radio dial, and just allowing the amplifier to go to work. It's all you. So when you start getting these manifestations coming through, you did that. Every single part of you did that. So that's basically all that this box as a tool is doing, right? Just a very, very advanced, amazing technology that is in complement to ourselves. So again, that's something you guys can check out. And again, it is wishingmachineproject.com. So I've actually just recently ordered another box as well too, because I'm going to be doing some experiments. In the last episode, I was talking about time travel, right? Looking into the idea of this particular invention that was used, that you could again have going into a certain form of ley line, whether it's a ley line node or another particular area of ley line, and being able to look into time travel, actually being able to turn these dials, these tuners, to a specific area to actually have an out-of-body time travel. Well, I'm actually going to try this with the new Radionics box that's going to be happening. So I'm going to be doing some out-of-body time traveling work when I get the new box coming through. I could certainly do that with light circuitry as well too, but I of course want to test out the box and just get an idea about what type of effect it comes through. So that is basically our show for this evening relating to this presentation. We're going to be moving on to Q&A here in just a moment, but again, feel free to look into all of this. Look into the idea of working with your thought forms, looking into the idea in that sense about how the light circuitry affects you. Again, light circuitry sessions are available on my website, looking into the Radionics as well too. And Radionics, again, just represents the idea of a tuner that is attracting a certain anchor of vibration. That's what Radionics does. It's basically honing in on the frequency that you have chosen and being able to interlock that energy, anchor that energy, like a radio tuner. Just like when we're tuning into 98.5 FM, all of a sudden we get a broadcast. We may want to mess with the dial a little bit so that it can become a little bit more clearer, right? A little bit more clarity in regards to the broadcast. That's all radionics is. It's a radio for your vibration. So you're tuning your frequency specifically to lock on to an anchorage point of a vibration. It's coming in very, very strongly because this is the amplifier. So it's helping you to attract these particular types of manifestations. So very, very exciting stuff with radionics. So again, Dr. Mulder does a really great job in building these from scratch. You know, he builds them himself. And it's very interesting too, because when you receive it, you know that this was built for you. And it's a wonderful feeling as well. All right. So again, thank you everybody for tuning in. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at the Q&A now. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up the Q&A app and see if we have any questions for this evening. So if you guys want to share any questions, again, with myself or with Adronis, I can bring him in. And just feel free to go into the Q&A app and just post the question that you have. Okay. All right. So we have a question here from Megan. Megan asks, in what ways will our energy fields transform as we move more deeply into fourth density? Can you share a suggestion of a way to use frequencies to expand our consciousness and cultivate the skills of telepathy? Thank you, Adronis and Brad. Oh, my love. Okay, thank you, Megan. So you mentioned Adronis and Brad. So maybe what I'll do is I'll bring Adronis in for this particular question, and he can just kind of pop in real quick and share some information relating to this. So again, it's a very well put together question, Megan. So thank you very much. So I'll just take a moment now to connect with Adronis's energy, and when he comes through, he'll address Megan's question altogether. Okay, I was going to take a sip of water before I do that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring Adronis in, and we will begin. Here we go. Terra Soul Star Sirius Adronis We are here at this time. We bid you greetings and thank you very much for the opportunity of this interaction today. I am Adronis of Sirius, sending love, appreciation, and gratitude to all who are tuning in to this broadcast being brought forward through your internet collective consciousness. In regards to the idea of Megan's question, are there particular consciousness-based techniques that can assist in the idea of moving more into a fourth density consciousness, of moving more into the idea of addressing telepathy and the, shall we say, connection of improving that ability? Well, the whole idea in that sense is that you are already upon a planet that is very ripe with this type of energy, that it is not uncommon for many of you to actually discover telepathic moments with each other, that people that you have a great deal of respect for, that you have a lot of love for, you will notice that there will be synchronistic happenstances taking place that represent the idea of a feeling exchange. That is all telepathy is. When you are looking at telepathic transmission, you are looking at the ability of the natural language of the heart. The more open your heart is, the more susceptible you are to telepathy. That is how it works. Our particular recommendation is, again, working into a very healthy mind, a very healthy emotional state, and a very healthy body. When you eat properly, when you utilize the forms of organic vegetables, raw vegetables, wild vegetables, etc., what you are basically doing is you are crystallizing your own physical body. In corroboration together with that, you are crystallizing your energetic fields. In corroboration with that, you are crystallizing your chakra centers to, in that sense, reverberate resonance of a very high, healthy magnitude. As this starts to happen, you become more prone to feeling. This is how the natural language of the hearts, and again, the natural essence of spirit translates together with you, is when you are naturally telepathic, you are open. You are receiving the idea of the subtle energies or the intense energies that represent all contained within your reality. You are being able to meet people upon the street, and because your heart is so open, you are able to know exactly what they're feeling because they are transmitting that feeling. This is the property, this is the technicality pertaining to how feeling operates, to how telepathy operates in that form of generation. The more open-hearted you are, the more that you can connect together to this telepathy. So, love yourself. Go into the mirror and tell yourself how much you love yourself today. Continue to tell how much you love yourself by moving yourself into aspects of compliment. Looking into the idea that if you feel that you are attracting certain aspects about yourself that you may not prefer, you are utilizing the idea of repulsion in that state of, shall we say, the technique that relates to substitution. So in order to repel something that you are not preferring, it is firstly the noticeability that it is there. It is the awareness that it is there. It is the acceptance that it is there. It is the forgiveness that allows the reduction of focus pertaining to that event that, again, no longer holds a bond over you, lowering that upon the scale and allowing equivalent exchange to bring about a substitution feeling. So again, if you are an avid smoker, if you are an avid drinker, and you know that this is something that is not healthy for you, and you are looking to allow that energy to become transmuted, what do? You look for substitution. So once you discover that you are acknowledging, you are accepting, you are forgiving this energy, and you are now withdrawing, repelling that energy of focus pertaining to the old paradigm feeling, and you are rising up the energy, you have discovered the substitution relating to that particular frequency that you now wish to bond and connect with harmoniously. And now you are applying yourself in regards to that state of intention. That therefore gives you the idea of natural telepathy, of connecting together with realizing that, oh my goodness, here is a substitution. Here is something that I can do. Rather than smoke, I'm going to look into painting. Rather than drinking alcohol, I'm going to look into baking. This actually feels something more exciting in regards to my own favorite pastime, something that I particularly enjoy. Just because you consume something in regards to a state of addiction, it does not mean it needs to equate to a level of something that is equal to the connotation of something that needs to be consumed. It is more so in the idea that you are looking at the habitual nature of the emotional energetic assigned behind it, because much in that has to do with unworthiness. Much in that sense has to do with escape or fear. So you replace escape or fear with loving involvement through the idea of substitution. That is how you are allowing telepathy, again, to come forward. The realization that other opportunities are before you. Being telepathic with events, with opportunities here that are now attempting to get your attention. So to move yourself more into the fourth density energies is to be responsible, be loving, be aware. That is the principle as it moves into fourth density energy. You are already existing within a fourth density universe. But basically, as we have stated, there is a third density bubble that is encapsulating you because you still create those thought form intentions of still functioning together in a collective consciousness that is existing in purely a physicalized domain. So you strip that off when you, again, empower the heart space, when you empower yourself, when you complement yourself and realize that every single thing that you do is a complementary action to yourself. This is very much the action of how you can empower yourself and move into these fourth density currents. We thank you for your question. All right. Great. Thank you, Megan. Short and sweet, as always, with Adronis. So. All right. Thank you, Megan, for your question. I'll move down the list here. It's really pouring outside, so if you guys are hearing all that noise in the background, that is rain. Ugh, We had so much sunshine too. Now it's getting rainy. All right, so I have a question here from Bag. And Bag asks, do birthmarks have any significant meaning? Also, do tattoos have any particular effect on the body in the sense that they are symbols of your body? Thanks. All right, well, I can cover this. It depends in regards to the birthmark. Some people have noticed that in past life regressions, they've actually looked into the birthmark that maybe they have on their arm or their hip or their foot, and they're realizing that these can actually be imprints left behind from other lifetimes. They actually can discover that people who follow the pagan faith, who can be witches in that sense, who have the moles upon their faces as well too, have actually looked into regression lifetimes as well too, is through the casting of spells and through the karma that they've obtained has actually grown these particular moles in that sense. So birthmarks can be a mark, an anchor, relating to other particular types of experiences that even may be happening in this lifetime as well too. But it can represent a catalyst to helping you understand more about some certain things that you have been through karmically. And again, maybe even certain forms of messages in bottles as well too. When it comes to tattoos, yeah, I mean, I got two myself right here, right? Looking into these tattoos meant everything to me. I was at first very, very uncertain about wanting tattoos on the body, but I thought, you know what the hell? I might as well do this. And the first tattoo I got here was in California. It was in the OC. I believe that was back in 2011. And then actually I had another tattoo that was before this one on this arm, and it was a Merkaba, but it was so badly done by this artist. He was telling me, oh, you know, I'll do this great job for you. I can show you the trace marks here. Here it is. Oh, okay, it looks pretty good. And then he just completely screwed it up. And so I went back into another tattoo parlor with a more professional guy a few months later, and basically got the Adronis shield over it, because they said, well, you know, you can do laser surgery. I said, nah, don't worry about laser surgery. Just put another tattoo over it. And so this is the Adronis shield right here. It has meant a great change for me. All I can say is just speaking from my own account, because these two tattoos represent a great meaning to me. As soon as they were applied to me, it felt fantastic. It felt great. And, you know, there's even times too where I want to go and get another one as well too. So they have basically given me a great symbolism, a great meaning to my own advancement. And a lot of people I meet are loving tattoos, right? It's all based upon you. You have to find out about the imagery that you put upon your body and deciding exactly how is that going to serve you. You may have noticed that maybe when you were 16, you had this skull with blood all over the place and stuff like that. And here you are right now as a very advanced spiritual being. Maybe you don't like that tattoo anymore. Maybe it doesn't show the same meaning. So you would have to decide exactly what you want to do with that. Because again, these are all energies. It's thought form, right? So when you're looking at tattoos, you're looking at inked thought forms, right? Based upon what you are putting upon your body. And that is going to take a toll on your body based upon what it is that you apply in regards to tattoos or whatever else it may be. So that's kind of giving you an idea that yes, it's thought forms in ink form being placed upon your body. Thank you, Stephen, thank you, Beg, I should say, for your question. Okay, Stephen here asks, how many factors are involved in the equation of any particular object, say a table? If I wanted to teleport this table, what knowledge abilities do I need? Well, that's looking into teleportation. I haven't personally experienced that. I have had that question asked to Adronis. And basically what he has stated is that you need to see a connection to atoms. You need to understand the atomic flow of objects and realize their connection and oneness together with you. So it's not about the idea of feeling that I can snap my fingers and all of a sudden I'm teleporting my table from the left to the right, right? It's not going to be that simple, right? And basically what he says is that you need to see the flow and the equilibrium of atoms as natural as you're able to see your own hands, as able as you are to breathe in and out through your lungs. So it can take a long time to develop something like telepathy. That's not something that is an easy feat. There are masters that are basically just isolating themselves in caves, for many years, and they're still attempting to learn how to do this. This is not a quick fix. This is not something that's easy to develop. You really just need to become very familiar with the natural flow of energy, with how you are interconnected to every single atom that exists, to actually being able to notice the atoms within your body. It's very, very rare to actually see a person actually teleport naturally, right? We're just not in that particular state of evolution if we are so indoctrinated into a modernized culture, into a modernized civilization, where we're always being told that this is impossible. Is it possible to teleport things? Yes. Is it easy to do that? No, because you really have to unindoctrinate yourself out of a state of modern culture. And you really need to understand the flow of energy. Usually if you were a very young child and you were moved away from the modern society and you were looking into a lot of these things, being trained by a great master, a great sage, a great mystic, etc., and being able to understand that, you would have much more of a potentiality to learn how to teleport, to learn how to levitate, to learn how to bilocate yourself, to move out of body with ease, etc. But because we live in such a modern society with, again, a lot of toxicity and a lot of pollutants, and again, a lot of brainwashing, really pertaining to a lot of programs that exist, it's very challenging to get that kind of mentality to do that. But really what it represents is being able to be aware of the flow of atoms, to actually being able to feel the atoms, to see the atoms, to connect with the atoms of your own body, and seeing how everything interconnects, seeing yourself in a state of oneness. And you can't have fear with that. You really have to transcend the idea of feeling that, oh my goodness, if I teleport, I'll materialize myself partially into a wall, right? So it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of technique and mental discipline to move into that type of area if you want to teleport yourself or even an object. So if you're up for it, my whole idea would be to withdraw from modern society, really just going into the depths of the forests of the Amazon, or maybe across countries where there's a lot of isolation, and moving past the idea of the addiction to technology into a lot of the modern civilization, because you want to really get into the state of understanding the flow of nature. This is why a lot of ancient masters will just go into a forest for years and they will just understand the nature in there. They will respect everything that nature has to share with them, and they will work to understand it, understand its flow. You need to understand the flow of nature to really get an understanding about teleportation. And of course, as well, too, with all the oneness connection that you have, looking into the reality mechanics about how everything is significantly attracted to you, to giving you an understanding about where you fit in the grand scheme of all connected life. So it's a bit of a challenge, but again, if you're up for it, that would be something that I'd recommend. I'm certainly not in that alignment right now, because I just feel there's a lot of stuff that I'm here to do with modern society. But again, everybody's different. So if you feel that that's something you want to do, then by all means feel free. But to teleport a table, it's really looking into an advanced state of mental discipline that in the majority sense, a lot of us don't have yet. But in the generations ahead, certainly can. All right, thank you, Stephen, for your question. Okay, so Raul asks, how do you know when you have raised your vibration? Well, again, basically looking at the particular faculties here. That what does it feel like to be down in the dumps, right? You're feeling this weight, you're feeling this heaviness, you're feeling this thought clutter, you're basically feeling like you're going a mile a minute, worrying and obsessing about, something that may have happened. Maybe a friend dumped you, or, maybe you lost your job, etc. You know what that feeling is like. It's like a heavy, heavy weight, right? And it's basically fueling the ego mind is saying, what do I do? Worry, 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 worry. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I can't do this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that is marked as a lower frequency, right? Because all we're doing is we're staying in the mind. We're being obsessed over the emotions of loss and depression, right? When we're actually moving ourselves into a lightness, into a floaty feeling, this is giving us the idea that we're not insecure with our thoughts. We're not insecure with our feelings. We're not insecure with others, and we're not insecure with us. We are basically in a new vibration that is representing a complement. So you're looking in the idea to where there has been massive disaster, massive depression, lack of worth of self, to the idea of being able to bring yourself up into that state of joy. And when you're in that state of joy, you feel lighter than air. It's like you're walking on clouds. You're getting the impression now that everything that you're doing is in complement to yourself. You're following your own path divinely because this is who you are. You're not attempting to follow a spiritual path because it's cool, because it's trendy, right? This is who you are. You should just be looking into your own spirituality because that's the natural aspect of yourself. And when you have that contemplation, that complement of yourself, you feel lighter than air. You want to be of service to people. Your heart is opened up. So you're raising your frequency when you're noticing that there is a lessening of potential stress within yourself. So that stress level is dropping. And now your love is increasing. So it's going back to Adronis's example when he was talking to Megan. You know, you're looking into the idea of you're drinking a lot of alcohol and you're feeling down the dumps. You're removing that focus by repelling the energy, law of attraction and repulsion. It is not just law of attraction. It is law of attraction and repulsion, right? So you're repelling that energy by dropping the focus of that energy that you don't prefer. You are now rising the energy of the substituted quotient of what it is that you're looking to attract now, right? So you're basically kind of looking at what you've attracted, realizing you no longer want to have that energy within your life. You're now putting in the repulsion effect by turning the spotlight of focus into somewhere else. So you're turning. So basically, that old feeling of an old paradigm sensation is now becoming meaningless because now we've forgiven it. We've given ourselves permission to forgive this energy, that it no longer represents anything that is disharmonious to ourselves. And now we're dropping the flow, right? We're dropping the focus of that. Now we're rising in substitution of the energy that does serve us, of the energy that does feel good. And that's the feeling of vibration rising, right? Because we're rising into what we prefer. So if you want to experience high frequency, follow what you prefer rather than constantly following what you don't prefer. Okay, that's how you feel the vibration rising. Oh my goodness, I'm doing this new career. I'm loving every minute of it. I'm enjoying the work I'm doing. I'm enjoying the people I'm attracting. I feel so good in the heart. The heart feels like it's expanding. Every day feels like a miracle. Congratulations. That's you on a high frequency. You're waking up every morning and you're feeling blessed to be alive. Congratulations. That's a high frequency. You're making all these wonderful friends and you're having great talks and you're feeling yourself moving into new exponential aspects of being. Congratulations. That's a high frequency, right? You need to feel this right here, right? Not in here. This is not high frequency, right? The whole idea is that the mind itself is a database, right? We're looking into the idea of storage. We're looking into the idea of, again, getting impressions of what thought is attempting to tell us. Feeling is the root of everything. It is not thought. Thought itself is what is obtained through the aspect of feeling. So when we're feeling love, now thought can generate about how we can express love through the mind, right? So spirit leads the way always because it is the epitome of feeling. When we're basically playing around with thoughts, we're just playing with mind dribble. We're playing with all these little thoughts that are attempting to tell us, oh, maybe if I do this, maybe I'll raise my frequency, or maybe if I do this, or this might lower my frequency, blah, 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 blah. It's too busy procrastinating. But when you come into the straightness of feeling, this is the bulk of the tree. And the feelings are the generated branches, right? So feeling is always where it is. The more that you allow yourself to connect harmoniously to feeling, that is your true essence. That is where you're moving into spirituality. That is your true nature of spirit. The nature of spirit comes through feeling. It does not come through thought. So thought is a convenience of helping us to express through the mind about how we're feeling in the heart. Because feeling has no words. It just has a sensation. It has a feeling. It has a vibration. Mind is the interpreter to attempting to digest what feeling is attempting to tell us. Oh, I'm feeling happy. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling on top of the world. I'm able to express that through thought form, right? So that's giving me the idea of connection with thought. But the feeling emerges first and the thought afterwards. It is the growing branches on the tree. Okay, so thank you, Ra. I hope that helps you. Okay, so I'm just going to scroll down here and see what other questions we got. Okay, Amran, I believe that's their name, asks, how does energies of love, gratitude, and appreciation heal and open the chakras and balance them? Well, again, it's when you are in harmony, right? So if you're basically looking at yourself as a resonant crystal, this crystal no longer has any fractures. right? So when we are harmonizing ourselves from a previous state where we felt that we were abused, we were hurt, we were manipulated, we see fractures in this crystal. We're seeing this crystal crack and splinter, right? When we start to regain all of those pieces once again, and we're putting that back together, the healing process comes through the ability of loving, trusting, honoring, respecting, and being responsible for ourselves. So when you are in that particular type of alignment, these fractures now start to move into a liquefied aspect. They're basically just reverberating themselves, coming into a liquid aspect, and now starting to solidify into pure crystalline. So it's like a regeneration effect. So you are healing when you regenerate yourself. So when you are regenerating past all of the old woes that you have focused on intensely, you again have brought them down on the scale. You've accepted, you've forgiven that aspect. You've now repelled that energy, and you've attracted substitution. So now the substitution is the idea of the healing process, is you're continuing to walk that road. You know, it can be a transitional process. It can be something that can probably take days, weeks, months, or even years. But it all depends in regards to how you're feeling about yourself. You have to give yourself your own ground of how you feel you wish to heal. You know, what is it that you feel you can do that can substitute what you don't prefer? Only you can answer that, because only you know yourself better than anybody else. So you have to give the impression of saying that I've been in this financial turmoil for a very long time because I've constantly felt that I'm not worthy enough to get a job that compliments me, or to follow a career that compliments me. I feel like I'm stuck in this rut. So you're constantly fueling that. You're saying, okay, I'm in a rut, I'm in a rut, I'm in a rut, and it's going all the way to the roof. Now it'll start breaking through the roof because you're still starting to spiral into disaster. You're creating this. You're doing this all. Nobody else is doing this. You know, you accept or reject everything in life. There is no God other than yourself. That's it. You are the God. You want to look in the mirror and find God? That's who that God is. The God, the goddess is yourself, right? You're the only one here. This is your universe. You are creator. So when you start to repel that energy and attract what you prefer through substitution, that is the beginning of the healing process. You start to feel better. You start to live better. You start to align yourself to the heart and feel that natural transformation of healing. Okay, so thank you, Amran. I hope that answers your question. Okay, we're just going to take about 2 more questions here before we wrap up tonight. Okay, so there's one here from Fex Phonics. Fex asks, how can we stimulate the energy etheric body to prep for lucid astral experiences? What are quantum jumpers? And why is it every time I ask about the quantum jumper that jumped into my dream, I am told I just don't get it? The jumper was a lizard man. Okay. Well, I'll bring Adronis in, and Adronis can look a little bit further into this about lucid astral experiences and quantum jumping. Okay, one moment. We thank you once again for your question, Fex. Pertaining to the idea of your question, in that sense, about what can you do to calibrate your body to, in that sense, prepare for astral body experience? Well, the understanding is that the astral body is something that is already being, shall we say, experienced every single night you go to sleep. It is simply what you would refer to as unconscious-based meditation. That's all sleep is. You are completely unaware that you've actually fallen asleep. You are completely unaware that you've entered different dream realms. You are completely unaware that you actually have these forms of astral-based experiences. So the key here, in order for you to have astral projections, to have out-of-body experiences, is for you to become consciously aware of sleep. This means that your mind is active as your body rests. So it is basically what you would know as being on the precipice, being on the cusp, as it relates to the falling asleep of the body and the rising, awakening, and activity of the mind. And that you are basically centering the mind to stay active, and that when that time comes, when the body is fully relaxed, when it is fully in a state of tranquility and no longer in a state of activity. And your mind is now completely in that state of centering. You are now invoking the energy itself pertaining to your astral body to become released from the physical body. It is tethered through what you would know as your silver cord. The transient body that, when it is in that sense, phased out of synchronicity pertaining to the physical body, now is completely under your command. Whatever you wish to do in regards to the astral state is entirely up to you. However, understand that there are certain forms of grids and that there are certain forms of barriers that are electromagnetic in certain forms of capacity that can often, in that sense, feel to a person that there are, shall we say, hard walls. These hard walls themselves can be punctured, but they all represent the idea, again, of continual stabilization of the mind, being able to see yourself in a lessening of density. So understand that when your transient body actually, shall we say, dephases, particularly with the physical body, it still operates in some level in regards to, shall we say, a conscious thought that represents a type of, shall we say, density. So when you are basically lessening the mass pertaining to the energy of the transient body, you are actually able to pass through these particular barriers. These can often be referred to as catchers in certain ways. And again, these are actually defense mechanisms to preventing certain forms of astral bodies to actually, in that sense, wander off and look into different forms of phenomena that have attempted to be concealed by much of your rogue governments. So basically, again, it's all about being able to work together specifically with the energy body, with your transient body, and giving the impression of the lessening of density. And again, the lessening of density comes through a very particular four-letter word, L-O-V-E. When you are able to bring more love into your energy, you are now feeling lighter than air. You are seeing yourself in less physicality, because again, this is the imprint that is being left behind from an out-of-body experience, is that you still create some type of energetic shell that represents your human form. But when you are able, again, to lessen the density and bring more into the cohesion of love into your energy cycle, now you are able to pass through these barriers. And that is precisely how, again, you have the ability to travel astrally to wherever it is you wish. Relating to the idea in that sense of quantum jumpers, again, these are what you would refer to as, again, projected beings. These are beings in that sense that can actually project themselves into a room or can project themselves into any particular type of environment based upon, shall we say, vulnerabilities within the open field, to where they, in that sense, can actually come through and connect with you in this particular way. You mentioned that there was a lizard man that actually came through into your room. Well, again, this can happen because, again, there is some type of intermittent tie. There is some type of karmic connection between these particular beings and yourself that allow some form of intrusion to take place. So if you are noticing that a lizard man, that a reptilian being in that sense, is transporting into your room through the idea of a quantum jump, and you are aware of this particular being, and depending in regards to how this being makes you feel, if it feels uncomfortable, you simply command that that being leave your space. Because the more that you are empowered, and the more that you are realizing that as loving as you are not to be trifled with, that particular being cannot stay within your space. Intrusions of energies pertaining to beings can only remain based upon your permissions, or in that sense, lack thereof pertaining to disciplinary measures. So basically, in that sense, when you do not give the space for this particular being to be present within such a space, they cannot be here. They are able to intrude because of another four-letter word, F-E-A-R, fear. So when you are afraid of these particular beings that come through, now they have, in that sense, moved into what's known as a backdoor astral projection, very similar to what you would know as backdoor viruses that can appear upon your computer. And that is what they feed off of. They go into these particular states where they may feel very menacing, very frightening, and attempt to basically impose their own will upon you because you are scared half to death. And so that is precisely how they're able to share the space. You have given them permission to enter because of your fear. When you are empowered and you are, again, realizing you are not to be trifled with as a spirit, and you are commanding them to leave, they cannot occupy the same space because you are becoming an empowered energy. There is no longer a backdoor transit that is now available for such a being to come forward and impress themselves into your own space. So that is therefore giving you the idea here that quantum jumping simply is the idea of projection, of being able to bring forward these energies of certain forms of degrees that may represent something menacing, something enticing, something in that sense that may seem quite frightening, but it is all part of different forms of projections created through mental telepathy that can often at times even be created through technology as well too. So we thank you very much for your question. One moment, please. All right. Thank you very much, Fex, for your question. So we're going to take one last question here before we conclude. So I'm just going to scroll down the bottom and just see if there's anybody else that asked a question here. Okay. I'm going to take Jonathan. So Jonathan's going to be our last question for tonight. But again, come back next week with your questions, and we can always go over them again. For Brad or Jonas, what method would you suggest for a beginner to use as a daily grounding and aura strengthening protection exercise? Is it necessary to cleanse your aura daily? If so, what would be the simplest way to accomplish this? Well, again, there are many different ways. There are some people that I've met that on a daily basis clean their chakras all the time, right? So they're basically working together with certain degrees of rotation. So what I'll basically teach you here is just kind of basic rotations that represent the inflow and outflow of energy. So when we are basically looking to intake universal, cosmic, psychic, psionic energy, what we're basically doing is we're moving this into a clockwise direction. So if you're seeing my hand right here, it's moving into a clockwise frequency, a clockwise direction pertaining to energy. Okay, so that represents intake. When we're outtaking, again, we're going into the counter clockwise energy. Okay, so when you are basically looking to intake energies, again, look into that particular flow. So if you're starting with the root chakra, firstly, what you want to do is you want to outtake energy. You want to make sure that anything's building up can now be released, can now be returned back into the ethers, right? So again, sometimes you can call upon your guides, you can call upon loved ones, angels, etc., and being able to assist, have them assist coming through and clearing these chakra centers as you move into the outtake energy, right? Once you feel that there is a intuitive confirmation that that energy has been cleared, you're now bringing in intake energy. So now you're starting to feel the spiral moving into a clockwise direction and allowing that energy to magnetize so that your energy in your chakra centers are being purified. And you're just continuing to do that with all of the corresponding chakra centers as well. You can also look into the idea of the activation of palm chakras as well too. Palm chakras, again, can work together in certain ways with the intake and the outtake energy depending upon their usage. Usually what I would say is just being able to draw a spiral, okay? And starting that spiral, firstly, in the state of the direction of the outtake, the counterclockwise energy, okay? And then just stopping at the bottom and then just reversing direction and moving all the way back into the center in a clockwise direction, okay? Once that's done, repeat it on the same hand, put it together, and just keep it in the namaste prayer position for a few minutes, all right? And just feel that energy of the intake and outtake flow between your palm chakras. You may also want to feel that you're imagining you're opening up your crown chakra and that you're either opening up your perineum or the bottom of the feet chakra, and that they are actually emitting cords, that they're actually extending cords connecting to the center of the earth. So now you're intaking the earth energy. As your chakra is now opening, it's now intaking universal energy. And again, they will also work in outflow as well too, okay? So that's a particular technique you can use to strengthen your energy as well too, to strengthen your field. A lot of it can also represent affirmations, being able to create vision boards, I should say. Even going back to what I talked about earlier in this broadcast about creating thought forms, right? So if you feel that the thought form that you want to create is helping you to govern your energy, purify your energy, create a thought form that represents that intention. Create a ritual that you feel is appropriate for yourself to honor that particular thought form that you have created so that you can allow this energy to continue to broaden itself, continue to purify your own energy appropriately. Okay, so look back into the thought forms that we talked about earlier in this video, in this broadcast tonight, and that can help you as well too. And just meditating on that thought form altogether. Okay, so thank you very much, Jonathan, for your question. All right, guys, we have to wrap it up. So it's been a very exciting evening here, a very exciting broadcast of the second episode of the Reality Whisperer podcast. Next week, we are going to have special guests coming on. And basically, these special guests are going to be Rob Gauthier, Susie Baylor, Roxanne Swainhart. All right, so we're going to have 3 channels. And again, the topic of our conversation next week is that of channeling and psychic arts. Okay, so channeling and psychic arts are going to be our topic next week with our 3 special guests. So it's going to be a really, really exciting episode. So be sure to tune into that next Tuesday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. So again, thank you everybody for again being a part of a wonderful broadcast tonight. I had a lot of fun. Hope you guys did too as well. And again, you can go to my website, realitywhisperer.com, private sessions with Adronis, light circuitry, Akashic records, online courses, free videos and free meditations, and a lot more. So feel free to check out my website there, realitywhisperer.com. Thank you again, everybody. Hope I'm not losing my voice. I'm feeling a little bit squeaky here, so maybe I've just been talking for too long. But thank you, everybody, and I look forward to speaking to you again next week. Take care, namaste, and may it be well with you. Goodbye.